Refinancing can be a powerful financial tool, but it's not always the right move for everyone. So in this episode, we're going to explore the benefits and potential drawbacks of refinancing your mortgage. So if you're considering a refinance or just want to know it's the right time, this episode is for you. How you doing, Rick? How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me today.
Good. For those of you who don't know Rick, Rick is one of our senior top loan officers here at Morgan Financial, and he's been with us. How many years have you been with us?
I just had my 3-year anniversary here in the beginning of August.
But you have a long, successful career in the banking and finance world.
Very long. Yes, sir.
We don't need to go into the details.
No.
Good. All right. So we're talking about refinancing. And, I know, I'm sure everyone out there is like, oh, man, refinancing. All you mortgage people want me to do is refinance my loan. Mm-hmm. But we're a little bit different. Do you have any insight on that? How do we look at it at Morgan Financial?
Well, for one, we really dig in and go through the same type of loan consultation we do for a new purchase and make sure that it makes sense for the buyer to do so. We want to dig in deep and understand what their reasoning is for refinancing and make sure that it makes financial sense to do so and meets all their goals.
So you're saying that how do we make money?
Through doing loans and mortgages.
Doing loans and mortgages.
Yes.
And sometimes we talk people out of doing that, right?
If it's the right thing for them, yes, we'll talk about it.
Or at least we'll give them the info, and they might say, you know what, I don't really want to do that.
Correct.
And that's what it's all about, is doing the right thing for the customer time and time again.
Absolutely.
And I think that we, that's it's in the fabric of how we operate here at Morgan Financial, but we give the client the information and they get to make the decision, hey, does this make sense for me or not?
Yes, correct.
Good. Well, let's talk about reasons not to refinance, okay? I know I'm going off a little off, what we had planned to talk about, but I really want to talk about what's a reason why a client wouldn't want to refinance?
Well, one might be closing costs, because closing costs are not free. They
Right.
are financed in as a part of the loan. But if that's going to, not make the savings as great for them, depending on what their goal is, they may be looking to stretch out a term and lower a payment, or they may be looking to shorten a term, and the closing costs themselves added on top, could either take away from the benefit of doing so.
Right. So those closing costs, it's a real cost. Mortgages, even though people might say, look, you don't have to have any money out of pocket. That's one of those little things that lenders say, no money out of pocket, but it's still money that goes back into your loan and increases your loan amount.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so the benefit has to outweigh the cost. The cost is those closing costs, right?
Correct.
And the benefit is the savings.
Correct.
Right.
And we usually like to make sure that, we have a certain time frame that we're looking at that they want to recoup that difference. And if we can't do it in that time frame, it may or may not make sense for them to move forward.
Okay. So let's talk about another reason. And I'll give you the reason, and you tell me what it means to you, is extending out your loan term, right? Extending out your loan term. Why might this be a reason why people won't do it?
Because they're going to, they may be 10 years into a 30-year mortgage and extending back out to another 30 years, they're going to pay more in interest over the life of the loan that way.
Right. And sometimes it actually might make sense to do that, right? But this could be a reason why you do it, because maybe the cash flow makes sense for you.
Yeah.
But it might be a reason you don't do it because the term and the amount of interest you're going to pay, you have other options, and this is not a good one.
Correct. And a lot of people don't always understand that this is going to take you back out to another 30 years. Some families may be in a financial situation where they have to.
Right.
But, just making sure that we share all the options and let everybody know up front what it's going to look like with the finished product, and then they can make that decision.
What's one of the biggest reasons why someone wouldn't do a refinance right now?
If you're looking to sell probably in the next 6 months to a year, that may not be a good reason for you to do so, because you're never going to reap the benefits of that savings.
Right. So if they know let's say you work at a company where you're going to be transferred the next year or two, or you're in the military and you have to PCS to a different station somewhere else, and you're going to sell the house, if it doesn't hit that recoup time, or the cost to recoup, the time to recoup the closing costs by the difference in payment, it might not make sense.
Correct. I mean, especially because we're usually looking for, you brought up the PCS period. Our veterans, they're looking at 36 months or less to recoup that. And if they're going to be transferred out within the next year, that will not make sense for them.
It won't make sense. And I've had that specific situation. We had a military vet, or actually active duty military, and they were stationed over here at Patrick's Space Force Base. And they had to get, they were getting PCS to Minot. I think it was Minot, North Dakota. And he knew it was going to be within a certain time frame, but he really wanted to save this on his loan. We actually ended up doing the loan for him because he ended up keeping that house to rent it out.
Okay.
But that's a rare situation. And that is allowed. The VA on the streamline refinance. We do the streamline refinances, and VA allows that on their streamline. That doesn't matter if you live in or occupy the property or not, just that you've been paying your bills on time as promised for the last year and some other things. So cool. Now let's get into the fun stuff. What is a reason why someone would want to refinance their home?
Well, for one, would be if the rate market has changed considerably, that they can experience a much lower mortgage payment by reducing the rate.
So lower rates, lower payment.
Correct.
And so what kind of information do you give them to make sure it makes sense for them?
One is to look at their overall household expenses and be able to see, if everything's cash flowing properly for them. We'll consider looking at some of their higher interest debt as well and see if we can pull that into the refinance and not just give them a savings on their mortgage, but an overall savings for the household as well.
Okay, so you're looking at their total debt picture.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And if you see an opportunity to say, listen, it might make sense, if you have a credit card at 29%, 29%, that's crazy. But
a lot of people probably have that these days.
A lot of people have it these days. The cost of everything went up well higher than the wages went up, and they took that difference, put it on a credit card.
Correct.
And so if you're paying a credit card at 29%, it might make sense to look at doing a cash out at, whatever the rates are. Even current market rates aren't anywhere near 29%.
Right.
But you're also paying it over the life of 30 years. So you got to look at that interest savings over time.
You do, but considering what we normally learn about people is that it's not the rate on the credit cards that's the problem. It can be the situation of the spending habits.
Right.
And if you could lock them into a term and give them a definitive date as to when this debt will be paid off, that can also provide peace of mind for them as well.
Right. And if you have, let's say your minimum payment on that credit card is $420 or $450, if they take that and by the savings they get and they pay down their mortgage with that money, they'll pay off their entire debt faster, their mortgage and all.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that starts to snowball. What's another reason why someone else might refinance their loan?
Yeah, even for a shorter term. When they purchased their house, if the interest rates were higher and that's where their price point and their purchasing power fell into, they can look to shorten the term if rates are better and possibly go into a 15-year mortgage.
Yeah, so they go from a 30-year payment, which is a lower payment typically, but you're right. If they want to go to a 15-year mortgage and they're going to get a lower rate, right? And an even lower rate because it's a shorter term typically. Sometimes that's not always the case. And so now they have a shorter term. They're going to pay off their loan quicker and they're paying less interest. So if paying the least amount of interest is important to them, a 15-year has an advantage over 30.
Oh, absolutely. The savings is considerable on the interest long term.
Considerable, right? Yeah, cool. So any other words of wisdom on refinances, whether if someone's looking at doing a refinance, what are things they may or may not consider?
The first thing I would consider is talking with a financial professional that has your best interest in mind overall to sit down and see what are your overall goals and does the refinance itself make sense.
I would put you out there as one of those professionals.
I've been told that I'm one of those professionals. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Yeah. So if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking to refinance and you want to get real answers, you want to get options, give us a ring, reach out down below, ask us all the questions in the world. Rick, we're going to put your information down below as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And subscribe, share, but do you have any final words on that note?
There are no dumb questions when it comes to your mortgage and your
That's true.
finances, and definitely bring those up and any concerns you may have. We take that very seriously when it comes to putting a plan together for our clients.
Cool. Well, you heard it here first. Let Rick and the others at Morgan Financial help you put a plan together, whether it's a refinance or a purchase. Thanks, Rick, for joining us. That's all we got. Like, subscribe, share, put your comments down below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.